Some wounds leave no marks, some traumas make no sound, and some children grow up in homes that look perfectly fine from the outside while feeling completely unseen on the inside. A meta-analysis examining data from over 59,000 people found that 18.4% of participants reported experiencing emotional neglect in childhood. That is nearly 1 in 5 people walking around with an invisible wound that shaped everything about who they became. Stay until the end, because what you will learn here might finally explain something you have never been able to put into words. Now, before we go any further, let me be clear. If you are someone who felt invisible as a child, this is not about blame. This is not about pointing fingers at parents who may have tried their best. I am here to help you understand, not to judge, not to shame. Many parents who fail to truly see their children were themselves unseen. This is a pattern that passes silently from one generation to the next, and understanding it is the first step to breaking it. Part 1. What does it mean to be invisible? Feeling invisible as a child is not the same as being abused. There are no bruises, no dramatic incidents, no stories to tell at dinner parties. Instead, there is an absence, a quiet emptiness, where attention and emotional responsiveness should have been. A child asks a question, the parent barely looks up. A child feels sad, no one notices. A child accomplishes something meaningful, it goes unmentioned. Over time, these non-events add up. They create a powerful internal message. Your feelings do not matter, your needs are not important, you are not worth noticing. The fascinating thing is this: children cannot judge whether their parents' behavior is good or bad. When a father ignores his child's excitement, the child does not think there must be something wrong with dad. The child thinks there must be something wrong with me. This is the cruel mathematics of childhood. When we are not seen, we conclude that we must not be worth seeing. Part 2. The brain learns to disappear. Here is where the science becomes truly remarkable. When a child repeatedly experiences emotional invisibility, the brain adapts. It learns to hide, to take up less space, to need less. Research shows that children who feel emotionally neglected often try to have as few needs as possible. They become experts at reading the room. They learn to disappear so skillfully that even they forget they were ever there. But the shadow child remains. That is the term psychologists use for this wounded part of ourselves. The shadow child carries all the old beliefs we learned before we had words to question them. I am not important. My feelings are a burden. I do not matter enough to be noticed. These are not conscious thoughts. They are deeper than thought. They live in the body, in the nervous system, in the way we hold ourselves small when we enter a room full of people. Part 3. The adult who still feels unseen. What happens when the invisible child grows up? The body ages, the circumstances change, but the internal program keeps running. Adults who grew up feeling invisible often report a strange sense of disconnection. They might have successful careers, loving partners, even children of their own. Yet something feels missing. There is an emptiness that nothing seems to fill. A hollowness at the center of a life that looks fine on paper. Many describe feeling like they are watching their own life from the outside. Present, but not really there. Involved, but not truly connected. They learned so well how to disappear that they cannot stop doing it even when they want to be seen. Relationships become particularly challenging. When you learn that your emotional needs were a burden, asking for help feels dangerous. Expressing vulnerability feels like too much. You may push people away at the exact moment you most want them close. Not because you do not care, but because the old programming insists that needing anything from anyone is unsafe. Part 4. The triggers that bring it all back. Certain situations activate the invisible child with surprising force. Being around parents, even as an adult, often brings up feelings that seem irrational. You know they love you. You cannot explain why their presence makes you feel so small. Conflict is another trigger. When you never learned that your emotions were valid, standing up for yourself feels impossible. You might avoid disagreement entirely, or you might explode in ways that surprise even you. Asking for help becomes its own small crisis. Every request feels like proof that you are too much, too needy, too demanding. Better to handle everything alone than risk confirming what you always suspected, that you're not worth the trouble. These triggers can feel overwhelming, but recognizing them is actually good news. It means you are beginning to see what has been running in the background all along. Part 5. Why your parents may not have seen you. Understanding is not the same as excusing, but it does help. Many emotionally neglectful parents are not cruel people. They are struggling people, working multiple jobs, fighting their own battles with depression or anxiety, dealing with marriages that demand all their emotional energy. Some grew up invisible themselves and simply never learned what emotional attunement looks like. They cannot give what they never received. The parent who dismisses a child's sadness may genuinely not recognize it as important, not because they do not care, but because their own sadness was dismissed in the same way. This is how emotional neglect becomes a silent inheritance, passed down without words, without awareness, without anyone meaning to cause harm. A parent's struggle does not erase the impact on the child, but knowing this can release you from the belief that you are somehow responsible for being overlooked. Part 6. Finding your way back to visibility. Healing begins with a simple but profound recognition. You were born to be seen. That need was not excessive or demanding. It was human. Every child deserves to have their feelings noticed, named, and validated. If that did not happen for you, the wound is real, and it deserves attention. Start by paying attention to yourself in the ways no one else did. Notice your feelings throughout the day. Give them names. Treat them as important information rather than inconvenient noise. This might feel strange at first, maybe even self-indulgent. That discomfort is the old programming resisting change. Practice taking up space. Speak in conversations. Share your opinions. Allow yourself to need things from people. When the inner voice says you are being too much, recognize it for what it is. A survival strategy that no longer serves you. You can thank it for trying to protect you, and then choose differently. Here is the truth that changes everything. You do not have to keep treating yourself the way you were treated. You can become the witness your younger self never had. You can offer yourself the acknowledgement that was missing. You can look at that shadow child with compassion and say the words they needed to hear all along. I see you. You matter. Your feelings are real and important. The invisible child can finally step into the light. Not because someone else finally notices them, but because they have learned to notice themselves. If this message touched something in you, share it with someone who might need to hear it too. And tell me in the comments, what moment made you realize you had been feeling invisible? You are not alone in this, and your story matters.